Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting EMA session hosted by the Crypto Bulls community. Today, we're diving into one of the strongest real world asset narratives in the space, which is tokenized real estate. And we're joined by a team that's been building long before the hype. Yes, we are honored to have Denis representing Blocksquare, a project that's, created, as you will be seeing it, powerful infrastructure for bringing real estate assets on chain. Yes, from regulatory compliance tokenization to their marketplace solutions, Blocksquare has been, out there consistently pushing the boundaries of what real world assets can become in Web3. So throughout the course of this ANA, Denis will be helping us understand what the project's mission, technology, and future plans, and of course, how you and I, everyday users and investors, can get involved with Blocksquare. So, everyone, get settled in, drop in your questions if you've got any, and show some love in the comment section. So, yes, hi Dennis. It's great to have you here with us today. Welcome to the AMA.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the intro and thanks for organizing. Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Yes, so let's get it started now. Let's start Litu now. Could you please introduce yourself and experience in the blockchain? Let's get to know you better.
Sure thing, sure thing. So I'm Denis. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Blocksquare. Been around crypto since early 2016. And it was during that time that we started researching where smart contracts could be impactful in kind of everyday industries. So we set up at that time a blockchain lab with a couple of friends, and essentially we started researching different verticals. And when we came to the vertical of real estate, it started to let's say it started to become very interesting because real estate is the biggest asset class in the world, and we saw that there might be a way of unlocking that asset class or changing it or adding certain qualities to it that it doesn't have. And it was quite a long time ago. We started Blocksquare then officially in end of 2017, beginning of 2018. Yeah, we've been through some bear markets and some bull markets, and today we are where we are.
That's rather impressive. Thank you, thank you. It's always great to hear from someone who's been deeply involved in blockchain. And of course, the way I see it, your experience really, sets the tone for the AMA. It gives everyone confidence in the way that Blocksquare is led by people who truly understand the space. So let's now let's dig a bit deeper into the foundation of the project itself. Please can you help us highlight your team skill to explain the significance of the name Blocksquare? Again, what bearing does it have on the project? And if there's any story behind the project's creation, including its timeline and motivation, would be interested in hearing that.
Well, okay, that's an interesting question. So Blocksquare, where did we pick the name? I guess there must have been a bunch of names. There was no AI to generate names at the time, so that was all done, in consultation with some people in marketing and so forth. And I think the name came out of, square being, a very typical metric or shape in real estate. You have square meters or square feet, and the square is like a very common form, if you will. Um, and block is blockchain. So there were not thousands and thousands of projects around at the time. So it was actually pretty straightforward why we picked this one. It was pretty agnostic in terms of where where it might lead us as a project. We always knew that we want to work in real estate tokenization. We had a very specific plan in place, and the brand name kind of spoke to that, creating infrastructure for tokenizing real estate. That was behind the name, and it's still true today. So it didn't change that much. Maybe the only thing that really changed is the times we live right now, where RWA is a thing. It's recognized from big institutions, and at the time, tokenization was not even a term. So, in terms of the team, initially three co-founders. Alongside myself, Victor, as somebody with deep expertise on the technology side, and Peter, somebody who comes from compliance and legal perspectives. I added my part in business development and entrepreneurship, and as well, personally as a real estate investor. So that's kind of something that we jointly then saw an opportunity to really properly start a company, because we had this diversity of expertise that we could put together and the resources we had, to really find solutions that maybe other teams that would be, too much from the tech side, or maybe too much from the real estate side, or, would not have. And it was like a perfect constellation to start something like Blocksquare.
Impressive, impressive. That's a powerful backstory, knowing that there's really meaning behind the name and it wasn't something that was AI generated. And, the journey your team has taken really helps to, help us understand the heart of the project. I mean, you mentioned having three co-founders. That's really an outstanding. Strong team helps build strong ecosystems, obviously. Well, love to hear it. So speaking of ecosystems, uh, let's move to how Blocksquare is expanding around the world now. So, but before we continue that, I would like to remind everyone listening, if you haven't already, please make sure you're following Blocksquare across all platforms. All relevant links has been dropped and pinned in the community, and soon enough now, I would also pin the Blocksquare's link on the Twitter space here, so you can follow promptly. The project is doing some serious work in real-world asset tokenization. You don't want to miss out on their updates. So yeah, as I was saying, speaking of ecosystems, you've successfully built a real estate tokenization protocol and a white label marketplace. So what exactly is your rollout strategy across different regions? Like I'm from Africa, so yeah, like Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And how do you localize for the regulatory and cultural differences? Did you catch that?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question, actually. When we were researching real estate as an industry, as back then, the main thing is that, on one side, yes, real estate is, like I mentioned, the biggest asset class in the world. So, period. There's nothing else like it. If you add cryptos and stocks and, you know, GDP of all the major countries altogether, it doesn't reach the so-called market cap of real estate. And this is something that, I always wanted to point out when speaking, because it's something that we don't realize. On the other hand, it's the only asset class that we all know of. We experience that asset class as a customer, as a user, every day. Whether we walk on public land, or live on private land, or in buildings, and we utilize buildings and so forth. It's something that every one of us understands deep down somewhere. You either paying rent or you're either charging rent. that's the two things everyone has in common. And so it's something that should resonate in every person. It also should resonate in every person that almost nobody or a very little, a very small amount of people in the world have the ability to own real estate and have economic benefits from this asset class. And you have numerous studies that not being able to access real estate creates the biggest challenges or the biggest challenges for certain parts of the population in terms of economic equality. And I think with tokenization, we can change this. It's not just about Blocksquare, but in general, as a human race, we can change how people can prosper, how people can save money in an asset class that historically has been performing rather well in a safe in a safe way, but it needs to be done properly. So when you look at real estate as a market, then you see how fragmented it is. It's very localized. It's extremely localized. It's like if you're a real estate investor in one city in the same country, it doesn't mean that you'll be successful if you transfer that experience into another one. So that localization makes you think that when you're creating a tokenization protocol, it needs to be driven by companies who really have the expertise in a specific area. So how we've kind of developed Blocksquare as an infrastructure provider is that we can provide the tools and the infrastructure and the models and the legal models to any business, any real estate business around the world so that they can utilize it. Sometimes the models are directly applicable. Here I'm talking about the legal part of tokenizing real estate asset, and sometimes they need to be localized. So how we work is that we work with local partners, companies who want to launch their own white marketplace, and we offer them a white label solution so they can do that under their own brand, and they can bring to that marketplace real estate assets that they believe can perform well and that will attract the end user, the people who want to invest in real estate in that region. And so we then come in with the tech, but not only that, we also help them on the legal structuring part. Of course, that does require that partner company to have a legal counsel that is familiar with local regulation and can take the concepts that we share with them and localize them if needed. So it's not like a plug and play thing, unfortunately. But the thing is that how we have structured tokenization of real estate assets from the legal side is very similar across jurisdictions. And it's only in there's only certain nuances that change from one country to another. But overall, the conceptual part remains the same. And so it can be, let's say, applied as is in 80%, 90% of it, and then only the rest needs to be kind of localized and changed, perhaps. And I think that's the strong point, that we really can have partners across the world globally, and they can utilize the technology locally.
Thank you, Denis. That's perfectly explained. Having partners globally is also what will in turn lead to regional adaptation, and which is one of the, biggest challenges in real world assets right now. So sharing how Blocksquare is approaching this shows how forward thinking yourself and the entire team is. Kudos once again to the team. Okay, now let's talk about a topic every investor loves: liquidity. Yeah. Liquidity is often cited as a key value of tokenized real estate, yeah? But how does Blocksquare support secondary trading and also make sure or ensures that investors have exit options?
So we go here. Yes, liquidity is the number one thing with real estate, right? Or illiquidity, if you will. And there's been studies of citing the liquidity or illiquidity premium and discounts and what it means and so forth. But to give you like in plain language, an understanding is every market has a illiquidity threshold. So it's a range for a specific types of real estate assets where there's not enough buyers for them and they are extremely illiquid. And that's present across the board on all markets. The question is only what the parameters are, what the values are. So, for instance, in Ljubljana, in Slovenia, where I come from, the illiquidity threshold is somewhere between a property, whatever type of property, more or less, whether it's residential or commercial, that's between 3 million euros to a property that's worth around 15 million. And the reasoning behind it is simple. Properties up to 3 million are usually bought and sold by individual investors. You might have apartment units that go for around 200 to 800K, and that's, regularly bought and sold by individuals. Then you have units that are bigger, or maybe, some commercial, up to 3 million. There's enough buyers for you to go buy, and there's liquidity for those assets. Above 3 million and up to 15 million, there's a very thin or a very small amount of investors engaged in those asset types. And then above 15 million, you have various funds that might be local funds or regional funds or international funds that would be interested in buying those kind of assets. So you again have more investors involved in assets that are of larger sizes. And so it means that there's a big illiquidity in the threshold between 3 and 15 million in Ljubljana, in Slovenia. But that threshold can be different from going to another city in Slovenia. And then again, if you go to Germany, or you go to the UK, or if you go to Nigeria, or, it changes, of course, and it changes from region to region, from city to city, from municipality to municipality, right? But it exists. That's the most important part. And that's where tokenization can really, really help out, because you can now, with tokenizing an asset in Ljubljana that's worth, let's say, 5 million, you can give access to that asset to anyone on earth who has a connection to the internet and a wallet. And I think that's remarkable, because now, instead of just having a couple of buyers in the local market who might be interested in buying that, and then if you add on top of it the timing, when to buy it, etc., when it is the right time for those buyers to buy, because maybe they exited somewhere else, or I don't know why. But if you add that on top, then the matchmaking becomes really hard. And with tokenization, that can be solved. Now, the question is, how can you solve it? How do you bring liquidity to these assets? On the first side, you need to have education. People need to understand that this option exists. On the other side, you need to have education again, because investors need to understand that this option exists and that it's safe. And in the middle, you need to have it structured in the proper way. So our role is on the structuring part to make it structured properly. And as well, we're trying our best on the educational side. But thankfully, the macro sentiment is inclined towards tokenization. And so the education is not happening just from our end anymore, but it's happening from all across the world. People are educating themselves about tokenization and as well tokenizing real estate. And so I think that's something that will help unlock liquidity down the line. Now, on one side, you have liquidity coming from investors and users who might want to buy real estate tokens directly. And that's great. That's something that we have already, with our infrastructure, already enabled. On the other end, you have liquidity that can be provided in a different way through DeFi. And that's something that we've been working on with Oceanpoint. And we're just now basically received the final results from the audit with Haken that we were having on a new smart contract that will directly be tackling the illiquidity of tokenized real estate. And essentially, it's going to serve as an instant sell or instant buy option for tokenized real estate. So if an investor will hold real estate tokens, they will not need to wait a day or two or a week to sell them anymore, but they will be able to instantly sell them to a DeFi protocol instead. And I think that's also something that will help adoption of people buying into real estate tokens, because most of the people who are interested in this are Web3 users, and Web3 users are in crypto and they are used to instant liquidity. They're used to the fact that you can instantly sell, I don't know, ETH or some other token on an exchange. And with tokenized real estate, that's not true, because it has different dynamics, of course. So with Oceanpoint, we're trying to solve this part as well. So, make sure to follow us, how well we're doing there. And so, like I said, the audit has come back right now. I just learned about it today. And so this is fresh news. And from here, we're going to start implementing it on testnet and hopefully roll it out sometime next year, hopefully in Q1.
Okay, dokie. We look forward to that. We look forward to that. Uh, Q1 next year. Well, thank you for clearing up all of that. Liquidity is the make or break factor for tokenized assets, and it's good to see how you have developed a solid framework for that. So let's continue now by looking at the operators side of things. So let's say from a project owner perspective, yeah, Denise, say if there is a real estate operator who wants to tokenize an asset using Blocksquare, what what are the costs? What are the timelines? What are all of the technicalities, technical steps that are involved, and what level of support do you offer to these operators, estate operators?
So like I said, we're a white label infrastructure provider in a way. So if there's a real estate operator or a marketplace operator, so a company that either holds real estate, a larger portfolio of real estate, and they want to launch their own marketplace under their own brand, or if it's a company who sees as being the facilitator of tokenization in the region and maybe doesn't own real estate, but they want to work with real estate owners. Rolling out the marketplace consists of a couple steps, right? To basically establish a marketplace for a company, it takes us a couple of weeks essentially to do it. In terms of costs, we have various options from the simple licensing, software licensing fee, but the most popular one is going through the Launchpad, where it involves basically raising BST. So BST is Blocksquare tokens, and locking them into a marketplace contract, so a marketplace pool, as we call them, and that then unlocks the ability to launch their own marketplace on the infrastructure for essentially a very low cost. And so that's, once the marketplace is there, tokenizing a real estate asset, it takes, depending on the availability of all the proper information. But it's actually pretty simple. And then regulatory approval is another thing where we can't put the time frame on it because it depends really on the local regulator, how much time they will need to process it. In Europe, under MiCA regulation, as we tokenize assets in Europe, it takes about a maximum of a month for regulators to approve the documentation that is sent to them.
Mm-hmm. Nicely broken down. Nicely broken down. Thank you. That sounds like a very friendly onboarding structure for property owners. That's cool. That's cool. So now it's time to talk about something the entire community is wanting and waiting to hear about, which is the BST token. So the way I've seen the BST token, the way I've read about it, it seems it's essential to Blocksquare's ecosystem. So now, could you walk us through the roadmap for its governance, what are its taking rewards, and its role in the long-term value creation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, right now the markets are what they are. So there's, I would say, a lot of discounts on different tokens around. And BST is, let's say, similar. How we're building the ecosystem around BST is, I think, quite interesting, and the team has done a remarkable job so far. So, like I mentioned earlier, BST can be used to unlock discounts on the software licensing. So, essentially, BST is equal to software usage, right? In a way, because as you hold and stake BST, it gives you discounts on using the software and up to 100%. So it means that um, somebody who wants to operate the marketplace can essentially hold 100,000 staked BST, either themselves or through the Launchpad campaign, to be able to operate their own marketplace. It means that there's a direct correlation between BST and the software that Blocksquare is making available on the market. On the other side, there's a staking functionality for those who buy real estate tokens. And so if you see real estate as a very maybe even boring asset class for somebody who's involved in crypto usually, that gives returns between 5 maybe 10% per annum, it means that these returns might be quite low for regular or for people in crypto. For regular investors, those are actually pretty fine. And so with staking real estate tokens, what users can do is that they can exchange regular returns to returns in BST. And that gives them a boost, essentially. So, and the interesting part is that the stable coins that are otherwise, distributed as regular returns are pulled into the governance wallet. And from there, they are used to execute buybacks and burns of BST. So essentially, as the ecosystem grows in real estate assets that are offered to the market, that people can buy and stake, the amount that gets accumulated by these rental revenues being distributed around increases too. And the more it increases, the more buyback and burning functionality it offers across the ecosystem, which means that it increases the deflationary element of BST. And this is something that that our team is now working on to bring more and more real estate assets that would be available for this kind of staking. So if before we were really focusing mainly on bringing the infrastructure around to marketplace operators, now we're really focusing on bringing this functionality closer to their end users. And just this week or the last week, we had a new release on the marketplace, on the white label marketplace, that enables users to execute the staking right from their marketplace application. They don't need to navigate somewhere else anymore, but they can execute that staking directly from any marketplace that's powered by Blocksquare. And I think that's quite interesting because it really simplifies the user experience. And it makes it possible to, say, okay, I hold 1,000 tokens of this property and I want to stake half of it, and half of it I just want to hold them and receive regular returns. And so they can make those kind of combinations. And I think that's kind of really the central part of that tokenomics around BST that can make it potentially very interesting on the long run.
All righty. Here's a very quick follow-up question to that. The token, is it live now? I mean, how and where can, those interested bag some of it?
Yeah, the token is live. It's available on a couple of exchanges, Gate, Mexi, Uniswap, which means, if you're a 1inch user, that's also something interesting to use. And right now, like I said, it's on discount, so it's Black Friday, I guess.
Ah, impressive. Fantastic highlights as well. Well, that gives, token holders a clear view of where the BST is heading and how it ties into the ecosystem's long-term growth. Thank you, Denis. So now let's talk about transparency, something that's extremely important in real-world assets. How does Blocksquare rather ensure transparency and protects investors, especially regarding the revenue distribution, the rental income, and property appreciation?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a question actually that we have been tackling for uh, since the very beginning, essentially. How do you tokenize real estate in a way that's really safe for investors, that gives them the same risk parameters as investing in real estate traditionally? Because you can't adjust returns to higher risk, right? So you need to bring the risk to the same levels. Um, and years ago, we've basically understood how we can transfer economic value from a real estate asset onto tokens. And this is great because it makes real estate tokenization viable and possible. Um, the problem there is that the protection of investors is somewhat limited. So the risk profile is much higher than traditionally. And what we've then learned is that we need to find new models that can change this. And a very interesting model that we have been working on, and we've essentially piloted in 2023. And then throughout 2024, we've worked with a large um, law office, CMS, which is the largest law office actually in Europe, on understanding the legal implications of this model. And then throughout this year, being part of the EU regulatory sandbox, we were able to talk with 30 or 33 regulators across Europe and try to understand the views of regulators towards this model. Is the notarized tokenization framework. And this is something that I believe is the future of tokenizing real estate, really, because it's so much different than tokenizing shares of a SPV that holds title to a real estate asset. And the main difference is that you are basically creating a direct charge on the title, and this is notarized. And then there's the claim to that title comes from token ownership. So you hold tokens in your wallet and you have a direct claim on the title of the real estate asset. Your name is not in the land registry, of course, but the rights are there. And I think that's quite game changing.
Yep, I think that's as well. Excellent. Transparency, of course, helps to build trust, and it's good to see you are all prioritizing this at Blocksquare. So, moving on, now let's discuss something many people don't usually consider, which is off-chain risks. So, real estate comes with off-chain risks like, rent, property maintenance, property management, and a host of others. But I'm particularly interested now, how does Blocksquare handle or mitigate those risks within your tokenized model? I think you're on mute,
Sorry.
Denis.
Yeah, I forgot to press the button. Sorry. So, I mean,
Yeah,
of
no worries.
course, off-chain risks are something that comes with any real world asset, right? You have the on-chain part and the off-chain component. And here essentially you have, like you said, you have certain things that are tied to property management. So let's look at, if I invest in tokens that represent shares in a company, what do I get? I get a part of the company value, and I get a right to the dividends paid out to me as a shareholder. And my risks are that the company value will go down and that I receive no dividends because the company is not being managed properly and there's no profits because I get a share of the profits. What it means for me as an investor is that I need to take care, or I need to be present in overseeing how the management works. And this can be really a tedious process. It needs my full attention. So being an investor in equity is oftentimes very risky. And you're the last to get paid. So RWAs tokenized in this way are putting the investor at a very high risk. Now, the way we tokenize real estate is different because what you get by buying tokens, you get a share of the economic rights that derive from the ownership of the asset. And that's different to owning equity. And the difference is that I have a bottom line that the tokens I purchased for $10 per token, that the property owner who oversees the management of the property needs to pay me back at least $10 per token or more. So that's the first thing that protects my off-chain risk. The other part is that I'm entitled to a percentage of revenues instead of a share in the profits. And here's the main difference between revenues and profits. Profits come after all the costs. I manage a property. I have maintenance costs, legal costs, retenanting costs, and other administrative costs. And then I have also additional expenses that might not have been provisioned for because of repairs. And so if
Hello,
yes,
I have a question.
One second, just hold on. Let him finish
Okay.
speaking, then you can ask.
Okay, thank you. So,
All right, please carry on.
all
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this are being, added, and maybe I have no profits. The company doesn't have any profits, so I get nothing as a token holder. But if I have a share of the revenues, if the company that owns the property does 100,000 per year, and my share is 80% of that, it means that 80,000 should be distributed to token holders. If half of the property value has been tokenized, then 40,000 needs to be distributed in that year to token holders. So it's pretty clear what needs to be distributed to token holders. And if the management has additional costs, it doesn't impact the token holder. If the management is mismanaging the cost structure on the property, that's their problem, not the problem of the token holder. So essentially, as long as the property is being rented out, and as long as it's a property that has or that makes sense as an investment financially, in a traditional sense, you as a token holder have benefits over the equity holders, and you need to get paid first because it's an obligation towards you. And I think that's the main protection that real estate tokenized with our legal models and with our tokenization protocol has over most real estate assets that are tokenized using securitization, which means tokenization of shares.
All right. Thank you, Denis. That's very well explained, and it's really reassuring to know that these traditional risks are factored into the model and are not being ignored, as we see sadly with some projects. So yeah, we
Hello,
had a lot
DP.
of requests, and so I had to bring up some of the speakers. Yeah, so Crypto Village, you can ask your question now.
Okay.
What's your question?
What's inspired to team to start Blocksquare in the first place?
Um, can you ask that again?
Sure. What's inspired the team to start Blocksquare in the first place?
Okay, okay. Denise, did you catch that?
I'm not sure I understood the question really.
I
Can you?
can.
I think he said
Okay.
what inspired the team to start Block Square in the first place?
Okay.
Yeah.
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 So the thing that inspired us to start Blocksquare in the first place is that we, through that blockchain lab I mentioned earlier, that we basically understood that there's a way of transferring the value of a real estate asset onto tokens, and that might be really impactful because real estate is the biggest asset class there is.
Simple and short. Simple and short. Okay. Let's take one more person. We have Crypto Alex. Thank you, Crypto Village, for your answer. So, Crypto Alex, what's your question? Yes, yes, we hear you.
I have a question. Just wait. So can I ask you a
All
question?
right, let's see. Yes, yes, you
How
can,
is
please.
Blocksquare different from other real estate tokenization platform?
Okay, Denise, you caught
That's a
that?
good question. I think one of the things is we started really early. Many would say too early. So we have this experience of being able to pull it off when there was not really much interest for tokenizing real estate, and we learned through those times, I would say. The other part is the infrastructure that we built um, is really built for tokenizing real estate, and we can really kind of offer it globally. So we're not a marketplace offering tokenized real estate, but we're an infrastructure provider. So we partner with other companies who want to run their own marketplaces. And last but not least, the tokenization of economic rights is something that Blocksquare has brought to the market and championed. And I think the notarized framework that I mentioned earlier is something that no other company has done so far. So I would say that a combination of experience being on the market for a longer period of time, and many times a lot of things that you see on the market today were actually first implemented by us, and then maybe some other companies have copied them or transferred some of that understanding into their products. So I think we still have a certain edge when it comes to tokenizing real estate that many other companies who just emerged on the market today don't have.
Okay, thank you. So I have another question. What's your most priority for this year?
We cannot we cannot take another question because we have a lot of people on the queue. So please just one question per participant. I've also unmuted Ali, Willpower Director. So Ali, what's your question?
Hello, my question is,
Yes,
there
yes,
are
Ali.
upcoming partnership or listing should be excited about?
In terms of partnerships, I think can you hear me? One of the things is a partnership with ULI, which is Urban Land Institute. They started a so-called acceleration program. The interesting part of this collaboration is that ULI has, as a worldwide global organization, has almost 50,000 corporate members who are really traditionally in real estate. And we're the only tokenization provider in that ecosystem. So our goal there is to be able to bring education on real estate tokenization to very traditional real estate players. And we hope that through that process, we can, in a way, convert, if you will, a lot of traditional real estate providers, real estate companies, to start looking into tokenization and applying them to their established business models. I think that's, from my view, that's one of the most exciting partnerships.
Sweet. All right. So we've had a couple of questions from the audience. Now let's go back to the original questions. Now, I have one final question for you now. Okay, two questions actually. Please, just answer quickly so that we can cover time. So the first one is from a community and investor standpoint. Yeah, how can individuals get involved with your ecosystem, and what are the minimum investment requirements? Are there any KYC steps, and how does community feedback influence your overall development?
All right. So in short, the far easiest way to get involved is through BST, right? We're an infrastructure provider. BST has direct ties to that. For investors who want to start experiencing owning real estate through the ownership of tokens, I invite you basically to look into our ecosystem. Go to oceanpoint.fi. There's an explore page there. And there you can start exploring basically real estate opportunities around our ecosystem. And once you make a decision on, maybe visiting a marketplace, yes, you will need to go through that KYC process to be able to purchase real estate tokens. But the good part is you'd only need to do it once, and then you can basically access a whole, ecosystem of marketplace operators. Currently, I believe 18 marketplace operators are utilizing Blocksquare's infrastructure. So that's kind of a short answer.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. That gives, everyone a clear entry point. Accessibility really is key, and it's good to know that Blocksquare is creating space for everyone and not just, the big players in the industry. Okay, and now for my final question, let's look towards the horizon. Let's look towards the future. But before that, here's a quick reminder, everyone. Make sure you're following Blocksquare and you stay plugged into the ecosystem. Real world assets tokenization is one of the strongest narratives in crypto right about now. And Blocksquare, as you have seen it, is right at the center of it. So do not sleep on this. So last question from my end now. Looking ahead, what are what are your major roadmap milestones for the next 12 to 18 months? Yeah, let's start from that. Whether it's new jurisdictions, new asset classes, deeper DeFi integrations, market upgrades. Just tell us what are your major roadmap milestones?
Yeah, that's a interesting question, actually. Some of the things on our 2025 roadmap have, extended beyond 2025. So there's a couple of things we need to close from 2025. There's obviously new things as well coming up. But I think overall, we're growing our ecosystem month in, month out. There's, a lot of new potential for new marketplace operators that are coming to us on a weekly basis. So there's a lot of interest from more or less traditional companies in the real estate space to start their tokenization business or expand into tokenizing real estate. And that kind of really can push the boundaries to different types of real estate being tokenized. And I think in terms of bringing more liquidity to the ecosystem overall, the developments of Oceanpoint into this liquidity engine is really going to be the significant step in 2026. And I think if done properly, that can really, really create a moat that no other tokenization provider has. Because on one side, it can aggregate stablecoin liquidity through protocols that DeFi is very used to, like Uniswap, for instance. And on the other end, offer holders of BSPT tokens for investors in BSPT tokens. So real estate tokens that you might find across our ecosystem, a way to quickly access liquidity when it's needed. And I think that's kind of really the thing to watch out in 2026.
Nice. Excellent way to wrap things up, Dennis. That roadmaps, shows how much growth and innovation Blocksquare still has ahead. Very exciting for the times and for the ecosystem. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, I think we've still got time for some more questions. Yes. Do you want to take more questions?
Uh, sure, we can take one or two questions. I do need to then run to the next meeting, but maybe one or two questions. Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's take Investors Club. Investors Club will take you. What's your question? And then we're gonna wrap up. Hi Investors Club. Can you hear me? Okay, so there was a crypto today here. I'm trying to bring crypto today up. Investors Club, are you there? If not, um, Denis, you can just
Hi,
give
hi,
us
hi, I'm
some.
here.
Okay, cool. All right, let's hear you now.
Thanks for unmute me. Can I ask my question?
Yes, please carry on.
Okay. Are there upcoming partnership or listing we should be excited about?
All right. So I think this is a similar question we got already asked before.
Okay, can I ask next? Can I
Sure,
ask another question?
sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Will there be more opportunities for the community to earn token staking or rewards?
If there's going to be more opportunity for the community to stake for staking rewards, is that the question?
Yes.
So as we are rolling out this liquidity engine part of Oceanpoint, there's going to be an incentivization program for providing liquidity for it, which will involve depositing stablecoins and BST tokens. So yes, I think that's something to watch out. The how much rewards are going to be provided or for that period of time, that's still to be set. It's not defined yet, but those who are interested in this kind of activities are definitely welcome to follow us.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Denis. That's a fine way to wrap things up. It's been really amazing to have you here. Do you have anything else you want to add, or say some closing
Well,
remarks,
thank you so
maybe?
much for organizing this. Thank you for everyone who listened in. One thing to note that we haven't mentioned today is we have this ambassador program on oceanpoint.fi. You can find all of everything about it. But essentially, there's more than 100 ambassadors from all around the world who have been working with us. And essentially, ambassadors are our voice locally. You get incentivized to organize or sponsored in a way to organize local events and organize regional hubs locally, connect with other people who are interested in tokenizing real estate, and really be able to do that under the Blocksquare flag. So you get a lot of support from our team. If you're interested, every other Thursday we have office hours and ambassadors from all around the world to join us. I think the next one is next week, so not this Thursday, but the Thursday that follows. So, welcome to join here.
Okie dokie. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dennis, for taking the time to join us today and for sharing such detailed insights into the Blocksquare ecosystem. This session has given myself, and I believe everyone in the community, a much clearer understanding of the vision, technology, and the real world impacts behind Blocksquare, especially in the rapidly growing real world asset space. So, to everyone in the Crypto Bulls community who tuned in, asked questions, and interacted throughout the AMA, I appreciate your energy and support. Blockchain is clearly building something powerful, and we're glad we could explore all of this together today. And if you haven't already done so, please make sure to follow Blocksquare across all platforms and stay plugged into their updates. You can tell already that it's a lot more coming, and you sure do not want to miss any of this. Once again, I say thank you, Denis. Thank you, Blocksquare, and thank you, Crypto Bulls community. This is Crypto Bulls. I will see you in the next AMA. Stay bullish, guys. Please extend our warm heartfelt regards to the rest team. Denis?
Will do. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you in the next AMA. Stay bullish. Bye bye.